welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing our journey exploring the different chronic health conditions that are plaguing the world at the moment. And the last one I talked about was high blood pressure, and you can find that video here. But today we'll move on and I'll be telling you why you need to look after your blood sugar levels, because we're exploring another of the most common lifestyle related conditions, and that is diabetes. Now, it's important to note that when it comes to diabetes, there are two types. We have type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. The focus today is on type 2, and I will explain the difference between these later in the video, so keep watching. So why is diabetes something you need to care about? Well, it's the world's fastest growing chronic condition, and in 2021 it caused 6.7 million deaths globally that we know of. In fact, 10% of adults have the condition, and it's costing the world about $966 billion a year in healthcare costs. These numbers are not expected to get any better, and it's estimated that by 2040, 500 million people in the world will have diabetes. But just like with high blood pressure, there is a similar pattern with the fact that people are getting diabetes at younger ages. Now, a recent study has found that the amount of people under 20 years old living with type 2 diabetes has increased by 95% from the years of 2001 to 2017. Now, this is a worry because in the past, type 2 diabetes used to be the type that affected mainly adults. And while adults are still the majority of people with type 2 diabetes, the number of children and teens with the condition is increasing with each year. Now, the main reason this is happening is likely because of the increase in rates of childhood obesity, but that is another video entirely. The point is, diabetes is a huge global issue, and you all definitely know someone experiencing the condition, or you may already have it. Now, as I keep saying, many of the chronic conditions that I am talking about are related to lifestyle, and therefore they can be prevented to some extent. So it's probably a good time to let you all know what diabetes is exactly. But before you know how diabetes works, you first need to understand how the body processes carbohydrates when you eat them. Now, when you eat carbohydrates, your body will first break it down as small as it can into a sugar called glucose. Now, glucose, as you may or may not know, is your body's main source of energy. Now, once these carbs are broken down to glucose, the glucose leaves the intestines and enters your blood. At this point, you have glucose traveling around in your blood, and it needs to reach cells around your body to provide energy. To do this, your body needs insulin, which is a hormone that is created by the pancreas. Glucose can't leave the blood to enter your cells without insulin. So think of insulin as a bouncer or a gatekeeper. When glucose needs to enter a cell, insulin will open the gates to allow glucose to come in and join the party. And that brings me to diabetes. With diabetes, there is an issue with insulin and how it works. Now, I mentioned before that there are two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas itself does not make enough insulin, and glucose can't enter cells because there's no one to open the gates, essentially. Type 1 diabetes isn't a lifestyle-related condition, it's autoimmune, which means the body's immune system attacks the pancreas. Now, with type 2 diabetes, which is the focus for today's video and the most common type, there is nothing wrong with the pancreas, and insulin still gets made like normal. But the issue here is that while insulin is around to open the gates themselves are not working as well, and this is called insulin resistance. And it's when the body doesn't respond as well to insulin. It's something that tends to happen over time. Now, in both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, the result is that glucose cannot move from your blood into your cells, and as a result, blood glucose or blood sugar levels will rise, which is not good. So that is what is happening with diabetes. Now, the big question is, what causes diabetes? Well, there isn't actually an exact cause that we know of. What we do know is that type 2 diabetes is mainly driven by lifestyle factors. Now, some of the things that can increase your risk of getting type 2 diabetes include being overweight or obese, having a lack of physical activity, a poor diet that is high in processed foods, having a family history of diabetes, which you can't really control that one, and also age. As you get older, it's just natural that your body loses its ability to respond to insulin as well as it did when you were younger. This is very much like wear and tear. So if you address the things that you can change, like exercise and diet, then you are more likely to have more years with your insulin working properly, and you may be 60 years old instead of 50 when your blood sugar starts to rise, for example. Like I keep saying, play the long game. Start early, enjoy the benefits for the rest of your life. It's up to you. How much are you willing to do for some extra time feeling healthy? So that's the story with diabetes and what it's all about, but you might want to know how it gets diagnosed. This one is a bit more complicated than high blood pressure. You do need a blood test. So again, go to your doctor. A few tests may need to be done before getting the final diagnosis. There is usually a fasted glucose test, which measures your blood sugar after an overnight fast. And then there is also the oral glucose tolerance test, which is a bit more involved. You still do an overnight fast, but then they make you drink a very sugary drink, and they will measure your blood glucose over the next 2 hours. This is to check how efficient your body is at processing sugar. Now, if your fasted blood glucose level is 7 millimoles per liter or higher, or if your blood glucose 2 hours after the sugary drink is 11.1 millimoles or higher, then there may be a diagnosis of diabetes. Now, from there, your doctor will look through the results and your situation overall, and you may be put on some medication. Again, it's up to you and the doctor. So that's diabetes in a nutshell. And you may now be sitting there thinking, okay, I get it. Diabetes means there is a problem with insulin. A problem with insulin means my blood sugar goes up. But what's so bad about that? Why is high blood sugar a problem? And that is a very important question to answer, because without knowing that, you won't really understand why you need to care about keeping your blood sugar healthy. If your blood sugar is consistently high, which is what happens if you have poorly controlled diabetes, then a few problems can happen. You can damage blood vessels and cause injury to the very delicate lining in your arteries. If you can cast your memory back to the video on blood pressure, damage to blood vessels is one of the causes of high blood pressure. So having diabetes can lead to issues with your heart. The damage to blood vessels that high blood sugar causes is an issue for a few areas in the body. Your kidneys are responsible for filtering out waste products from the blood. Now, if you have high blood sugar, your kidneys will try to remove the glucose, but over time, this glucose will damage the small blood vessels in the kidneys, and this can lead to kidney damage and eventually to kidney failure. Your eyes also have very small and sensitive blood vessels. Again, if you have too much glucose floating around in your blood, these vessels get damaged and can lead to vision loss and blindness if it's left for too long. High blood sugar also causes damage to nerves all throughout the body, especially in the feet and legs. This causes pain, numbness, and even loss of sensation in those areas. This also leads to a disruption of healing of wounds in those areas, and in really bad cases of diabetes, some patients will need amputations of their toes or their feet because the healing process has just failed. So you can see how just one simple thing going wrong can lead to a whole cascade of issues. Insulin stops working a little bit, and all of a sudden your heart, kidneys, eyes, nerves are all at risk. So look after your blood sugar levels. Start as early as you can. Now, if you already have diabetes, it's definitely not too late. You can prevent the issues that I mentioned earlier from appearing by making changes to your lifestyle. Now, what changes do you need to make? Subscribe to my channel and you will find out. I put out a new video every week that teaches you how to play the long game in health. I go through the small and sustainable changes that you can make, and if you stick to them, you will get the payoffs later in life. So please give a like if you enjoyed the video or you learned something, comment anything that you want explained further, and I'll do my best to answer. See you next week, and until next time, keep playing the long game.